right. Our next guest is a friend of mine. Over these last couple of years, I've had a chance to work with Joe Flynn. Joe Flynn is, well, he's kind of, I guess he's willing to say he's famous because his brother is General Mike Flynn, but he's had a great success as a businessman and entrepreneur in the healthcare field, and he's been in business, and now he is helping his brother General Flynn through the legal process, but also as General Flynn emerges back into his life. So Joe Flynn is with us. He's a member of the Trump campaign's Coalition for Catholics, the group that has been out talking about how Catholics should care, because the Flynns come from an old Democrat family in Rhode Island, all Catholics, and that's a story in of itself. But also first, welcome, Joe Flynn, and let me ask you an update for our collegians. And we have college students listening, some high school students, some alumni of our program, but mostly sort of in there and around their 20s. And how is General Flynn doing? Give us an update on him now. So many people wonder and worry about him.
Well, General Flynn is fine from the standpoint of his physical health is great. His family is great. Thank God. That's more important, honestly, than anything. But we're still in this battle. As you know, Ed, the charges were dropped with prejudice by the Department of Justice on the 7th of May. And here we are, October 14th. And Judge Sullivan has us tied up in knots in some type of weird power play where, for the first time in American history, when the prosecutors dropped the charges, this judge is not quickly signing off on that. So we're still fighting it. We're going to fight it to the end. We'll see where it goes. We're always hoping for new information and for the one thing that has to happen, which is the judge needing to sign off on this.
We're talking with Joe Flynn, and Joe, I mentioned that you're helping the Trump campaign. You believe in the president on a lot of issues, but mention, I think, about your family. You come out of Rhode Island. The family got all these brothers and sisters. Your mother was a well-known pro-life sort of grassroots leader and a Democrat back when it was possible. Tell me about the progression of the Flynn family from being old Rhode Island Democrats to today.
Yeah, well, as you know, maybe some of your young people in the audience that come from the Northeast, back in the time when your parents and grandparents were first arriving to this country from Italy, from Ireland, from Portugal, from other Catholic European places, they were the working class, and of course, the Democrats, especially with FDR, was a working class party right up through the Kennedy years. And really into the 1980s, when it wasn't not uncommon that 80-90% of Roman Catholics were Democrats. Okay, This is the way it was. Obviously, the first Democrat president in the U.S. was a Catholic, John Kennedy, and in those days the party was pro-worker, pro-military, and really a different party than it is today. And what we've seen is a progression which we kind of saw in the Clinton years, but really accelerated with the Obama administration, where the very far left of the Democratic Party essentially became emboldened and at this point has pretty much taken over the Democratic Party. We started to see this about 10 years ago. I personally started to see this when I was still a member of the Democratic Party, living in California, where I went to my first when I moved out to California about 15 years ago, went to my first Democrat Party meeting thinking, well, I'll get involved and get active. And all they wanted to talk about was abortion rights and gay marriage. And I was there wanting to talk about national security, education, and those types of and protection for the police. And they wanted nothing of that. I walked out of the meeting saying, I don't recognize this anymore. I'm out. And I think the same thing happened with General Flynn. Through his experience in the military and the awful foreign policy, particularly of the Clintons and Obama, and we just sort of knew that the Democrat Party had lost its way entirely, and now it's unrecognizable and really dangerous and damaging to the country.
Yeah, we're talking with Joe Flynn, and I'll make sure again to put up on social media. Joe's got a big active Twitter following, and you should check in there. General Flynn is pretty quiet on Twitter, has had a few posts, but Joe Flynn will post sort of updates on the things, and on Sidney Powell, who's one of our guests at Collegians. Joe, you might have known. Joe, two quick topics to cover, and I know we want to be respectful of your time. Sure. One is tell us about you've been vocal about the president's support in reforming the Veterans Administration, and for our college students, you may not yet worry about this, you may not realize, but if you serve in the military, among the many sacrifices you make, and you might lose your life, of course, is you get less pay. But one of the benefits is you get a commitment from us, we the people, our government, to cover your veterans of VA, to hospital, health care benefits. And it was a disaster until it's always been a tough system in many ways because of government managed anything, whether it's but in this president made it a challenge to get onto the VA and take it up. Tell us, Joe, I've heard you speak on this a number of times, how important that is.
Yeah, I think that the young people that are listening have, they don't think about retirement benefits and these such things. I wish I did when I was their age, and I have kids their age. So, you want, at some point you want to stop working. And if you were a veteran, especially if you were a veteran who served, a long period of time or in a foreign war, you expect, at a minimum, you expect the government to take care of important things like your health care. The Veterans Administration is the largest hospital system in the United States. It serves over 30 million people. And unfortunately, it has been very poorly managed before the Trump administration. And there was a crescendo of the poor management with a scandal that took place at the Phoenix VA during the middle or so, towards the end of the Obama administration, where people were waiting in lines and literally people were dying because they weren't getting treated. These are veterans who deserve that treatment. And of course, as the media always did with the Obama administration, they moved it under the rug. President Trump in 2016 made veterans issues, and the VA in particular, one of his key points in his reelection. And as we've seen with a lot of things President Trump has done, it's a promises made, promises kept situation, and nothing truer than with the Veterans Administration. The biggest movement that he made was the Mission Act of 2018. The Mission Act of 2018 provided the first real and permanent choice for veterans, meaning allowing veterans, if they can't access a VA hospital, then they could go to any provider, any healthcare provider in the country, and get the care that they needed. Before, the only way the veteran could get help would be to have to go to a VA clinic or a VA hospital, many of which were so poorly managed and had such poor outcomes, clinical outcomes, that people were avoiding this. And so President Trump opened it wide open and said, we're going to allow our veterans the same benefits any of our military people, and use any hospital that they want using their VA benefits to get reimbursed. This is a major, major deal for veterans. In addition, the Mission Act held accountable for the first time, really, in since the creation of VHA, held accountable VA employees. I mean, if you got into the VA prior to President Trump coming in, you were a complete disaster. Meaning you had a bad record, or you had criminal record, all kinds of trouble. You could keep your job forever. President Trump immediately changed all that and allowed for a reform, specifically personnel reform inside the VA, and got rid of or is in the process of getting rid of as many of the bad actors in the VA as possible. That's real reform, and it was undone. It was not done prior to President Trump being in power.
Well, Joe, I was just writing a note down to myself on some of what you were saying, because I love how you say it. And what I tell our young people is, if you want things run better, you got to get people to know how to run things. And in this case, the VA, the Veterans Administration, they do surveys year after year on the patients, on the veterans coming. It's at record high performances because of the president's changes. All right, Joe Flynn, I got real quick. I'm running out of time.
Sure.
College kids, you mentioned you have children that are around college age. Give our folks what's the future look like? What should they be doing? How should rah for our college kids?
What the future is all about you guys. We're not the future, Ed. We're fading into the sunset. And we may have a few more good years left to fight, but our young people, including my own children who are 23 and 26, are facing real serious challenges and attacks on our constitutional republic that you and I never dreamed were going to happen. We thought once the Soviet Union was done, communism was gone forever. We're truly facing Marxists in this country. And I think our young people have to really understand who the enemy is in terms of who we're facing politically. They will take away our freedoms. Every vote counts. Your friends need to be educated, and educate yourselves on history, most importantly, so you know what we're facing as we go forward. And please, please vote and get your friends to vote. We need to win the House. We need to win the Senate. And of course, we need to win back the White House.
All right. Hey, Joe Flynn, thanks for the time. We appreciate it very much. We've got a lot more for our collegians now in the College Summit. We'll get to it. Thanks, Joe Flynn. And we will be, I'll get back to some of the others. Here we go.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Joe.